So there's about 3 tanks have been put through this saw now, and started at 155 psi right after it was built, and it's up to 165 now, almost 170. So that's a good sign. The other thing I wanted to say is that this oil pump modification is not my idea. I can't remember if I read it somewhere or somebody told me about it, but I've known about it for a long time. Just never had a reason to do it to any saw until now. So curious to see the results. Okay, so today we're going to see if we can't modify this Husqvarna 350 oil pump for more flow. So the way it works, as this gets driven, there's a taper on the end of it right here, right? It's not flat 90 degrees, it's got a taper. Hopefully that'll show up. So as it spins, you can see it actually pushes this plunger in and out, if you will, as it goes round and round. Hopefully that makes sense. Right there it would be in, and like in that area it would be out. So with the adjustment, I don't know how close I can get this and make it still focus, but oh. So you can see right there with this adjuster all the way in, it puts that ridge, this ridge around the middle of that, puts it just about dead center in the middle of this. Therefore, that taper on the outer edge, if you will, it's not making as big of an impact. It's pretty much centered, if you will. So there's really not a whole lot of plunging action, if you will, this way happening when that adjuster's all the way up. It's pretty much just pivoting on the middle and not going in and out at all. So that's why you have minimal oiling on that setting, and then as you back it out one notch to the furthest setting, now you can see that this ridge, that this plunger, I don't know what the proper term is for that, but I'll call it the plunger. Now it's riding, the outer edge of this is riding on that center line of this adjustment screw. Therefore, it's getting the most action because it's going from the narrowest part here to the widest part here as it's rotating around. See? And that gives it the most action, if you will, the most throw rotating around. So now you have maximum plunging action going this way. So, thoughts are, seeing as how there is room for it to go this way, I'm assuming there's probably a little room for it to move out more yet. Since there's a spring here, it's probably not maxed out already. So if we were to file the narrowest side of the taper, if you will, right there, if we were to file it down a little further, put a steeper angle on it, it should, in theory, give this more throw. Because now this plunger can come out just a touch further at the narrowest part there, and then push back to the same spot when it's at its thickest point, right there. So this will still be the same, but this right here should allow this to come out. You know, we'll just maybe go like 10 or 20 thousandths and see what it does, but it should give it more throw, therefore more plunging, therefore more oil being pushed through the pump. That's my thoughts anyways. So with that said, seeing as how there's a spring here, that's going to give us movement that way. There's also a spring right here, holds the adjuster from moving, and you can actually push that up with a pair of pliers, and this pin right here, that little tiny pin in there that sits in the notches when you adjust it, you can push it out of there. And then it'll allow this piece, the adjustment screw itself, it'll allow it to drop down, and then we'll be able to move the plunger out. And after I got the pin pushed through with the pliers, I was able to just grab it on this side, take the pressure off the adjustment screw, and pull it right out. So once that pin's out, then the adjustment screw will pull out. And then your plunger can come out. You go to pull this apart, just know there's the spring that'll come off. Then there's also a little tiny washer on there. Keeps it off the splines. So just be aware when you pull it apart, because that would be an easy one to misplace and not know it. So on the shortest side of this, I'm going to call it 654. Okay, so 654. And on the tall side, the long side if you will, 676. So I just have a piece of fine emery cloth here. Yeah, you can get crazy and get a piece of glass if you want it extra flat, but this workbench will be enough, so we're just gonna take a few strokes, just putting pressure on that back side, hopefully remove a little material. So it's hard to tell in the camera, but it's a steeper angle. I was able to keep it fairly flat, I think. Flat enough for the job it's doing. And now, so we didn't lose any off the top. Took 0.010 off the bottom. Will this work, or does it even make sense to do it? I have no idea. But we're going to try. There's no like finite calculation that I can do here or that I know how to do as far as how much more oil it'll use, other than at the end of a tank of fuel, where's the oil level at in the tank? And right now we were like right at half a tank of oil per tank of fuel, or just over half a tank of oil for a whole tank of fuel. So hopefully we'll match it 1-to-1 after this, and we'll know we gained something. And I'll also be able to tell, I didn't show it on camera, but I know how much oil it was on the chain, kind of coming off the end of the bar, and when it came out of a cut, picked the chain up and I could see how much oil was actually in the groove. And we'll reassemble that little washer. And the spring. Well, that can go back in. Push that plunger back in. This reinstalled. That pin shoved back in there. And push through. However, now when I go from the middle setting down to the highest setting, it touches the top of the adjustment screw instead of the ridge around the center of it where it's supposed to. Hopefully you can see that and it makes sense. So I'm actually going to take this back apart and taper this top up here just a touch, so that when this comes around, that lower part of the taper on here actually touches the center line on that adjustment screw instead of the top, so it gets full throw. There, I think you can see that there. That's where it's supposed to contact it, and it does all the way till it gets right to there, and then it touches the top instead. So little minor adjustment there, and then we'll put it back together. Okay, so now we got that top turned down just a little bit, and I don't think I can get close. Well, maybe. Anyways, I did not touch that ridge, that center line on the adjustment screw. But you can see now that at all points it contacts that ridge and not the top of the adjustment screw. Hopefully that came through on camera, but now it has maximum throw in and out and isn't limited by it hitting the top of that screw. So anyways, we'll reinstall and see how it works. So this saw also, for whatever reason, it's got a little bit of an issue of bar oil. It chases up behind here along this channel, along channel here where, what do I do with it? Bar oil comes through out of the pump, comes right through there and up into this channel, or more so just right here out of this hole. Anyways, some of it's escaping and it's actually pooling up and covering the side of the muffler, and it actually fills up this void in here. Well, fills up this void in here with bar oil, and it's all glooped over the backside here. So I'm going to take and put a small amount of 3-bond just right here and along this top edge, not actually in the groove, but along that top edge, in hopes to maybe remedy that and keeps more of the oil from creeping up behind the plate. I don't know why it does that so bad on this saw, but something isn't perfect probably would be my guess. Go figure. And I mean, it's nothing that's hurting anything. It's still getting oil on the chain, just as gluing a lot of it out the back. So keep it out of that channel. Anyways, we will see. And this one, oh, I should have said that this one doesn't seem to do it, but some of these tend to, like, if they leak when they sit, right? They puke all the bar oil out on your shelf. Most of the time, it's from this little black grommet right here, or grommet, whatever, rubber fitting, right? Almost always it's regardless of the saw, it's where that goes into the tank or into the case or whatever you have here. This one doesn't seem to do it, so I'm not going to bother with it, but sometimes you can get it all cleaned up really well. A new one is obviously will usually fix it, but get it cleaned up really well and then just put some 3-bond around there, or your Yama bond or Moto Seal or whatever you want to use. Not tons, of course, but just enough. And anyways, it'll seal that up, and then you'll get rid of your bar oil leak that leaves a tank of oil on your shelf every time you put it up for a bit. But this one's good, so we're just going to leave it.